Hi guys, it's Kendra again with Where's Moon Astrology, and today I'm going to talk to you about the astrology of 2020. So we're going to be talking about this on a mass scale. I'm not going sign by sign. This is just going to be talking about the energy that will affect everyone during this month. And you know, we have some interesting energies. It's about to be Pisces season, so things are getting a little murky. It's that time of year again. We also have a Mercury retrograde coming up, so I'm going to be talking about that in the video as well. So I'm just going to get right into it. On the 3rd, we have Mercury entering Pisces from the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is a very logical sign. We've probably been communicating more from our brains and from our intellect. When Mercury enters Pisces, things can get a little cloudy. On a collective scale, we might be feeling a little more confused, a little bit more murky, we might be stuttering. Essentially, Pisces clouds whatever it touches. You know, it kind of dissolves the boundaries of whatever it touches. So with Mercury being the way you speak, the way you think, the way you communicate, on top of Mercury retrograde coming up, Mercury in Pisces by itself can make communicating more difficult. It can make it to where there's more misunderstandings and you're not communicating quite as clearly. On the plus side of this though, it can make your mental processes more creative. Pisces is a very creative sign. You might have great ideas during Mercury in Pisces. You might feel more in touch spiritually and thinking more on spiritual, introspective things. It's a great time for being creative, not such a great time for trying to do anything concrete or communicating difficult subjects. It may be easier to communicate feelings as well. It's also great for poetry. It's great for a lot of things, just not very good for the mundane day-to-day things. On the 7th, we have Venus entering Aries from Pisces. So with Venus and Pisces, we may have felt a little more sentimental in love. We may have been drawn to more idealistic romances, felt maybe even a little victimized in love. Now, as Venus enters Aries, we have a very different kind of energy for love. You know, we're going from the Pisces Venus, all-encompassing, you know, boundless, unrealistic, delusional love, and we're entering the sign of Aries. Venus is entering the sign of Aries, which is all about the conquest. Basically, what this is saying is that it's a more playful time for love. It can be a lot more fun than the energy of Venus and Pisces. If you're in a relationship, you might just be having fun with your partner. You might be doing things like chasing each other around the house and just picking on each other, you know, that very childlike Aries energy enters your relationship. If you're single, you might actually be enjoying being single. You might really love the independence of being single during this time and really enjoy that energy. Venus kind of softens whatever it touches. So it's softening and making more appealing the idea of things concerned with the sign of Aries, which is independence, you know, being a warrior. It can be a great time for women as well, women's rights. I think the Women's March a few years ago happened during Venus and Aries. In general though, relationships during Venus and Aries can feel more like playtime. And if you're single, you might be feeling more drawn to the conquest, more drawn to, you know, dating for sport, having fun in your interpersonal dynamics than trying to find something long-term, which might be more Venus and Taurus territory. On February 9th, we have the full moon in Leo. Now the full moon is all about manifestation and release. You know, the sign that the full moon falls in can show us what we're kind of releasing on a collective scale, the energy that needs to be released during this period of time. So with the full moon falling in the sign of Leo, what this means is that we're collectively releasing the ego. Leo is an egoic sign. It's a sign concerned with ego, ruled by the sun, which in the chart is the ego. So with the full moon falling in Leo, it's showing us that we need to release those ego structures. We need to see where we've been acting for our own good as opposed to the greater good and work on releasing those things, work on correcting those behaviors. This is a time to work on releasing your petty, egoic squabbles. If you've been in an argument with somebody that you care about over something that is really not that important in comparison to the value of that relationship, this is the time to look at that, because with the full moon in Leo, it's asking you to release the ego. You may be very focused right now on being right. This is not the time to worry about being right. This is the time to worry about those relationships. It's time to worry about the greater good. It's time to worry about the people that you care about. This is simply a time to change your approach when it comes to your ego. So on February 16th, we have a very active day astrologically. So we have Mars entering the sign of Capricorn. Now, while Mars was in Sagittarius, the previous sign, you may not have felt very motivated. You know, Mars in Sagittarius, that is a mutable sign. You know, it is fire, so it can be very active, but it might lack direction. With mutable energy, the direction can be kind of lacking, having a very clearly defined vision of what you want. Now, Sagittarius is all about vision, but it's not very much about directed, you know, strategic vision. It's not very good on the details. And this might have been a very fun period of time for you as far as, you know, the Mars and Sagittarius energy is concerned. You may have liked kind of roaming around without too much of a clearly defined vision. That can be a very fun energy. But with Mars moving into Capricorn, the energy is going to be far more conducive to accomplishing your goals. Now, unfortunately, this is happening with everything in Pisces, which is more immutable energy and very directionless, but at least we have that Mars and Capricorn energy kind of anchoring us during this period of time. This can mean that the way we go about achieving our goals can be far more directed. It can be more concise. We can move forward with more strategy in the way that we approach our goals. Now, unfortunately, again, we also have Mercury retrograde in Pisces happening today. So while Mars in Capricorn lends itself to proceeding with more strategy, that energy is going to have to be turned within. Because during a Mercury retrograde, it's not a good idea to make any changes that are concrete and in the physical world. It's not a good time to sign papers. It's not a good time to travel. It's not a good time to change jobs. It's not a good time to do anything that's going to have an obvious effect on your life in the outer world, because it's going to have that Mercury retrograde energy attached to it. And there can be misunderstandings and miscommunications that happen during Mercury retrograde, especially because this is in the sign of Pisces, which again is already more inclined to misunderstand things and make things murky. This is going to be a period of time when you might not have all the details and you really don't want to make any decisions from a place of being misinformed. So this is just really not a good time to make any concrete decisions or sign any contracts or anything of that nature. Now, what Mercury retrograde is good for and the way that you should use this energy, because Mercury retrograde isn't bad. Nothing is bad. It's an energy to be used. Now, the way that Mercury retrograde should be used is to go within. Understand what it is that you want. Understand what you are looking to accomplish in this next period of time, what you want to achieve in your life, and start visualizing those things. Pisces is a great energy for visualization, and Mercury retrograde is really just all about sorting your stuff out. On a practical level, you can use this energy to actually clean your home, you know, get rid of things that you don't need anymore. But keep this energy internal as much as possible. Use this, if you can, as a time to relax, a time to be at home more often, and a time to go within and do real introspection, because that's what this energy is great for. It's not great for making decisions that will affect your life. Now, some other things that you might find during this Mercury retrograde is that, you know, there might be technological failings. Like every single Mercury retrograde, Instagram goes down or Facebook goes down, or there's a lot of glitches and things like that. That happens every single time. You might encounter these issues in the workplace too. I know every single time Mercury goes retrograde, I experience issues in the workplace. Usually with software crapping out on me or something like that. Again, there might be misunderstandings and miscommunications when you're trying to communicate with other people, and you might have trouble sleeping. I have this problem during Mercury retrogrades. For the first week or so, I can't get to sleep at night. I've got insomnia, and that's not usually a problem that I have. I'll go to sleep on the couch before I even go to bed. Mercury retrograde can make it difficult for you to fall asleep and give you insomnia, even if you're not somebody who normally suffers from insomnia. Also, don't buy a car during this period of time. Mercury rules transportation, so I mean, I think that goes without saying because you're not really supposed to make big decisions during Mercury retrograde, but don't buy a car. Now on the 18th of February, the sun moves into the sign of Pisces. That means that it is Pisces season. The sun is the ego and the conscious will. The sun does not like to be in Pisces. The sun, again, is the ego, and Pisces is anti-ego. Pisces is the energy that blurs the boundaries of the ego. The ego is a structure that requires boundaries. It requires, you know, this is me and this is you. But Pisces takes away those boundaries and makes it difficult to understand the difference between you and me. That's why Pisces can be so empathetic, because they can really just break down the boundaries between themselves and other people more easily. So the sun really doesn't like to be in Pisces. This can be really difficult for people, especially who have like fire energy or air, a lot of air energy in their charts, because they're not used to this like watery, murky energy. It can be difficult. It can feel like a directionless period of time. Again, at least we have that Mars in Capricorn this month kind of anchoring us, but the sun in Pisces itself, it can be very murky. It can be a period of time when you feel less motivated, you feel more inclined to stay home, you might be more inclined to partake in certain substances. You might feel more introspective, you might feel more awkward. You know, Pisces can be a very self-deprecating energy, so during Pisces season it can feel kind of like, even if you're usually a very assertive person, you can feel kind of like it's difficult for you to express yourself confidently. Again, this is just an energy to be used, so I would use this energy the way it's supposed to be used. Pisces is a very spiritual sign. It's self-transcendent. So even though the sun doesn't like to be in Pisces, try to use this energy for introspection, for spiritual development, for understanding yourself and others, and, you know, understanding spiritual truths. So on February 20th, we have Jupiter in Capricorn, 17 degrees, sextile Neptune in Pisces at 17 degrees. Now these two energies work really well together, at least on the level of feeling. This can for sure be a period of time when you feel great. You feel like everything's good. And I think this is a nice energy to have during Pisces season, because it might feel more like the positive aspects of that Neptunian energy than the negative, because we have that Jupiterian energy happening as well. And Jupiter is an expansive, optimistic, happy-go-lucky planet. It brings that positive energy to whatever it touches. So sextile Neptune, it can feel like you're living in a fantasy. Everything feels good. Everything feels great. You could feel good energy, great vibes. You could feel like all your dreams are coming true, even that things are just kind of falling into place. And you might feel very spiritually connected as well, because these are both spiritual planets. You know, you've got Jupiter, which is a little bit more on the religious kind of faithful side of that spirituality, and Neptune, which is that self-transcendence. But these complement each other very well. Now this is an easy aspect, so this actually could bring positive results for you. However, just try to remember that both of these planets bring an idealistic energy with them that might not be very realistic. And Neptune is the planet of delusion. Now you've got Mercury retrograde happening anyway, not very conducive to making big decisions, but that Jupiter sextile Neptune energy can really be kind of deluding and can make you feel like things are better than they are, and maybe lead you to make decisions that are not ultimately in your best interest. Just kind of pull the wool over your eyes. But you know, it feels so good while it's happening, you don't even care in that moment, but you'll care later. So just try not to make any huge decisions under the influence of Jupiter sextile Neptune. It'd be like making decisions when you're like super drunk. And for the last major influence of February, on the 23rd, we have the new moon in Pisces. Now the new moon is a time for setting intentions for the coming month, the coming moon cycle, and really kind of getting in alignment with your goals. Now, in the sign of Pisces, this can be much more intangible when it comes to like the goals that you want to set. You know, the energy lends itself to things that are intangible. Again, Pisces blurs the boundaries of whatever it touches. It is anti-ego. It is not about, materialism. It's not about ego. It is a spiritual sign. It is self-transcendent. Pisces gives itself for the greater good. With this new moon happening in Pisces, it's a good idea to set your intentions for things that are intangible, for spiritual development, for greater understanding of yourself and for others, and for really just, I think it's a great energy for, self-development. Especially because, the full moon, which is what we're going to be manifesting, will be happening in Virgo, which is the sign that's all about, self-development. Virgo can be very much about self-development, health and wellness, things of that nature. Anyway, guys, that's all I really had to say about February 2020. Please let me know what you thought of this February 2020 horoscope, and if you have any ideas for any kind of content you'd like to see in the future, I'd love to hear about that. As the month progresses, let me know if you see any of these energies at play. I would love to, kind of be updated as things are happening for you guys. That always helps me better my understanding of how these energies do play out for different people. So that would be awesome if you guys would do that. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.